Legal cases, legal issues, legal matters. You're watching WFTV's Law Talk with anchor Christopher Heath and expert legal analyst, attorney Mark NeJame.
All right, let's talk about some of the current cases, issues, and legal matters that our viewers are talking about. Joining me today is legal analyst Mark NeJame of the NeJame Law Firm.
Hi, Chris.
And Boz Tchividjian of Boz Law, who is of counsel for NeJame Law. Yep. And we're talking about a sensitive topic today because it's sexual abuse and the clergy, sexual abuse and faith communities. We know this is out there. We read about it all the time. But again, it is a very sensitive topic that people need to be aware of.
And more people have become aware of it, Chris, with all the publicity. That's particularly happened in the Catholic Church over the years with priests and clergy and the bishops and altar boys and all of those type of things. That's what's gotten a lot of publicity. And there's been tremendous damages that's occurred to these young people over the years. And in addition to that, there's been tremendous amount of damages that have been paid to these individuals. However, it's not limited to the Catholic Church. In fact, Episcopalian churches and Presbyterian churches and Baptist churches and so on have really had their fair share as well. And a lot of times people go, well, this happened many years ago, and I'm concerned that, well, my time has passed. Well, that's not necessarily so.
And you mentioned something very important there. It's not just the Catholic Church. Faith communities across the board have dealt with this, are dealing with this, some better than others.
You know, if you look at the statistics, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men have been sexually victimized before they turn 18 years of age. When I speak to churches, I say, if you have a church of 100 people, okay, if you take those statistics, you've got quite a number of survivors sitting in your pews at churches. What are you doing to, A, protect them? What are you doing to help them? So one of the things, and Mark said this perfectly, and that is, I run into a lot of people who were sexually victimized in a faith community as a child. They're suffering in silence now. They don't know what to do. And one of the things that you have to understand about sexual abuse is it takes away power and control from the victim. And what I share with people is there may be opportunities for you to reclaim that power and control. And that starts with sitting down with a lawyer and saying, what are my options? Because a lot of people think that they can just go and report it to the police, which they should, and that the perpetrator will get prosecuted, and the ultimate consequence of a prosecution is incarceration. But there is also another option, and they're not mutually exclusive, and that is holding the institution, the church, civilly accountable for not protecting you as a child, and that can provide ultimately compensation, because healing from this childhood trauma is expensive. Therapy is expensive. Why should a survivor have to take money out of their own pocket to pay for therapy when the church, the very church that their parents entrusted them to, didn't protect them from the offender? So before it's too late, like Mark said, sit down with a lawyer, because the statute of limitations does exist. That's the period of time in which you have to bring a claim. But you'll never know whether you have that opportunity unless you sit down with somebody who does this type of work, who might advocate on your behalf.
And if I might add to that, each state is somewhat different as it relates. Some have eliminated statute of limitations completely. Florida's evaluating that, but it hasn't happened. There are statute of limitations. We do work all over the country. Unique to Boz, he started a charity that addressed this, and it really became so educated with the aid he was attempting to give survivors and victims over the years that he said this is the specialty. And so we've joined forces and are handling these types of matters. But it's really important that a lot of lawyers don't understand this area of the law. And there is a level of not only knowledge of the law, but the sensitivity involved and understanding and being able to draw out the truth, because a lot of times there's going to be liability that goes beyond just the actual perpetrator. It could be the institution which has been enabling or slipping it under the rug, or actually participating with some of the higher ups, and you don't know that until you dig deeper. Sometimes it simply requires the filing of a lawsuit and then getting into the discovery, and all these things start unfolding. And a lot of times they want to settle because they don't want to go ahead and have this come out even more, which is unfortunate in some ways for everybody else, but it's very helpful oftentimes to the victim who wants to be able to get this thing resolved and take care of their own pain that they've been enduring.
And Boz, I know a lot of times people will figure, well, I need to report this to the church and let it be handled internally, or report this to the synagogue or whatever my faith institution is, and they'll handle it internally. And a lot of times the faith institution wants to handle it internally for, as Mark said, to kind of keep it out of the headlines. That's not always the best course of action, because sometimes these faith institutions, their motivation may not be in line with the victim.
That's never the best course of action. If you decide to step forward, whether the abuse just happened or it happened 25 years ago, the first thing I would say is find somebody, a friend, a confidant that will walk with you through this, what could be a very difficult journey. Step 2, sit down with a trauma-informed lawyer who happens to focus on this area of practice. I've talked to a lot of victims who went to the wrong lawyer, who ended up getting re-traumatized by their own lawyer. So you've got to talk to somebody who understands this area of work, and let that lawyer guide you through this process. It's probably going to involve reporting this to law enforcement, because a serious crime occurred. But secondly, it's taking steps to hold the institution responsible. And there's a tremendous amount of healing in that when a survivor ends up confronting the institution that didn't protect them and requiring them to pay them so that they can get the help that they need.
And this is a very sensitive topic, and obviously one that is not going to go away. And it's important to get out to talk about this and to be available for victims as they come forward. Boz, thank you.
And if I could say, it is because of the bravery of those who started coming out and letting people know that it's emboldened and given strength to others. And so that needs to continue.
Fantastic point. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Boz.
Thanks.
If you'd like to see more of this or any of our other law talks, visit our website at wftv.com/legal, or join us each week right here on Facebook. I'm Christopher Heath, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.
WFTV's Law Talk was brought courtesy of the Personal Injury and Accident Division of NeJame Law.